So recall from earlier in the semester, I suggested that this course is structured so that it gives you an understanding of the thought processes that a manager of a corporation might follow in order to make a decision on behalf of the business. And the ideas, the concepts, the thought processes that I'm trying to help you with would equally apply to an artificial intelligence agent, which I predict we will see in the next few years, or to you. The thought processes I suggest are the same regardless, because what I'm trying to teach you is an idea of a stakeholder model to analyze both business decisions strategically and from a business ethics perspective. And so the old Milton Friedman shareholder primacy approach suggests that the purpose of the corporation is to maximize shareholder value. And that sort of I, me, mine approach, very self-centered on shareholders, tries to suggest that this independent, separate entity called the business corporation uh, only has that purpose of, say, making money and creating value for shareholders. And by shifting to a stakeholder model, it helps the analysis appreciate that business decisions really involve multiple interests of interdependent stakeholders, and that really what we're trying to do with ethics is to figure out ways of being with each other in a way that benefits all of us. And so the stakeholder model shifts it from an I, me, mine, self-centered, self-interested model to analyzing business decisions by focusing on the relationships among the different stakeholders that contribute or affect the value creation process. Does anyone have any questions about that high-level overview of the stakeholder model or comments? All right, well, let's build upon that then. This screen that I'm showing you right now, can you see near the top of the board, it says self-interest with self in quotes. Can you see that? I want to make sure before I start talking about it. Thank you, Anton. All right, so this is the thing that I shared in the chat. And so I want to build on what I've just said by reference to this board here. And so the old-fashioned model starts with the assumption that we have an independent, separate entity, this business corporation, and that is lesson 1A. We treat this business corporation, this thing that the law creates as a separate entity. Oh, excuse me. We treat it as if it is a separate entity, a separate independent entity. So whether it's a corporation or an artificial intelligence agent, we treat it as if it's a separate person with its own self-interest. That's lesson 1A. And that model tends to create a situation we have a series of different individual selves who are out there competing, like Darwinism's survival of the fittest. But I suggest that business is more about managing the relationships of different stakeholders who interact with each other and together, to some degree, cooperate to create value that's shared by those stakeholders. And so that shifts the analysis to a multi-interest, interdependent network of relationships, where we try to analyze that network of relationships and try to figure out ways that the business can flourish within the network of relationships. And the key to understanding this is to understand that whether it is a corporation or an artificial intelligence agent, there is no real self there. It's a legal fiction, a legal construction where we construct this concept of a self for the purpose of keeping track of rights and obligations. But the reality is that business is just the collection of assets and relationships. The business, the corporation, really has no independent existence. That's the reality. And so when you are analyzing a business decision from a strategic point of view and from a business ethics point of view, it is unwise to disregard stakeholders. Best practices is not to make decisions that are best for stakeholders, but rather think about the different stakeholders and balance the different stakeholder interests in a way that creates the greatest good for this group of stakeholders and assets that contribute to value creation. So think about stakeholders, do not disregard stakeholders. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns about what I've just presented to you? Good day. How shall we govern ourselves? We exist in interdependent networks of relationships. When I first stood before a class like this 25 years ago, I thought my task was to teach students the rules of law and ethical principles. That is, how to navigate the world as it is. Today, I invite you to contemplate being, how we exist, how we choose, how we might live differently. For a quarter of a century, I've delivered lectures regarding business law and business ethics. That is, our intention about using our agency affects the causal matrix of life. Every action ripples, touching others, where our intent shapes the causal weave of existence, each choice a thread connected to all. I've aimed to cultivate ethical intent, deliberate choices trending towards skillful desires, not fleeting wants. Conventional morals built upon individual competing self-interests tilts choices by a collective delusion that we're separate, self-interested masters of the universe. The prevailing ethos, rooted in competing self-interests, skew our choices towards a shared illusion that we're separate sovereign rulers of all we survey. It's a story we've told ourselves, and now we've woven it into artificial intelligent tools. We build with a self-centered worldview, shaping both AI and society. We model society as separate self-interests, each putting themselves first. Left unchecked, it may amplify a view where I trumps we, where agency, that is, our power to affect others, serves only the self. This path leads to suffering, not just for us, but for the web of life, of which we are part. Just because you can do an action does not mean that you should, not when your choices shape the conditions of other beings. Here's a deeper truth. There's no independent existence. You, me, our environment, future generations waiting beyond the horizon. We're all interdependent and ever-changing. To grok such emptiness is not to find a void, it's to see this truth, that no I stands alone. What if we reoriented everything? Our tools, our businesses, ourselves? Imagine AI not being a servant of self-interest, but as a partner caring for all. Imagine ethics as a practice of being for all. I invite you, shift from think for yourself to be for all. In every decision, ask yourself, for whom is this meaning made? What does it mean to me? And what does it mean to all affected beings? Considering meaning like this shifts when care expands. Suffering shrinks when we act from such right view, aspiring to harmony amid ceaseless change. This is not abstract, it's action. Responsible agency means wielding your power, your skills, your choices with wisdom and compassion. In business, it's co-opetition that sustains rather than conquers. In life, it's seeing the environment not as a resource, but as a relation. Old conventions offer defaults. Value is profit. Merit is power. Question such default premises. Care for all affected beings because our futures are woven together, not separate from them. I hope you've gained perspectives on ways to use your agency to serve all beings, not just yourselves. There's no final answer to harmonious living. Everything changes, but there's a direction. Act with right intention under the conditions that you will meet. Be for all. Aspire to ongoing, good faith effort at being with others, interdependent and ever shifting as we are. Be well. Farewell. Be whole. Good luck. And thank you for being my students. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.